Okay, if you're watching this video, it is December 6th, and I'm most likely either at or about to head out to Hollywood Studios for the day for Reunion 2013. So, obviously we're filming this video here before I leave, but while I'm at Reunion enjoying Hollywood Studios, AJ has been kind enough to decide to do 3 reviews of 3 different movies for today and for next week, which is December 13th. So, AJ, without any further ado, take it away.
Alright, our first movie is a movie that recently made news. Obviously it won't be recent when this is posted, but it was recent yesterday. We're talking about Charlie Countryman, which went to Sundance as The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman. I don't know what's going on with the title, but when the copy that I watched also said The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman. But supposedly all the posters and everything else now, and its IMDb page has changed it to just Charlie Countryman, so I don't know.
Alright.
It's all about shortening titles to names to not give any idea of what your movie's about to anybody whatsoever, so alright, see John Carter. We start with Melissa Leo is in the hospital, and she's like literally about to die. And Melissa Leo is Shia's mom, and her boyfriend. She had a husband, then she had a boyfriend. This is now her second boyfriend. That's Vincent D'Onofrio, who loves taking these nothing roles because once again this is his only scene. He just pops up into little places now. He doesn't care what he does.
That's such a shame.
So she bites it, and then while Shia's out in the hallway, like, starting to weep, Melissa Leo comes out. It's like her spirit or something. And she tells him to go to Bucharest. Just to do something with his life. Just go to Bucharest, that's all she tells him. So he's all, okay. So he was like a huge mama's boy, I think we're supposed to assume.
Nothing wrong with that.
So he's on the plane, and he's next to this dude that keeps falling asleep on his shoulder. So then the guy wakes up, and they have this nice little conversation. And he has, like, this hat. Just one of those hats that's like an animal or something. And he says it's for my daughter, and stuff like that. They make friends, dissolve. The guy's falling asleep on his shoulder again. And Shia is also falling asleep. Then Shia wakes up, and he goes to wake the guy up, and the dude is dead. So he makes it a point that he's going to find this guy's daughter and give her the funny hat.
At least he has his priorities straight.
So he lands in Bucharest, and he meets the guy's daughter, who is Evan Rachel Wood, doing a very authentic accent. So I'm not great with accents, but I've read apparently it's very authentic, and she didn't seem to break it, so good on her. So the plot progresses, and they become friends. Because, you know, she's Evan Rachel Wood, obviously he's very taken by her.
Yeah, of course.
That didn't really need any explaining. So then they're driving around, and the ambulance that is toting her dad's dead body around crashes because the guys driving are 2 stoners. The body flies out, hits the road, and she takes off in that direction. So he has her car, and he's digging through her purse to look for something, and he finds a gun. And engraved on the gun is like, "To my love, love Nigel." Well, it turns out Nigel is her gangster ex-boyfriend, played by, it's to my understanding, I've always heard him called Mads. Apparently, I looked it up, apparently the D is silent.
Is it Maz?
Mads Mikkelsen, I think is how you say it.
We're going to use that from now on, man. It's going to take a while to get used to.
Yes, but now I feel dumb for having said Mads for so long.
How are you supposed to know the D was silent? Oh, come on.
So anyway, well, for now I'm just going to call him Nigel to avoid anything.
That'll work. It's a Thornberrys review.
Smashing. Okay, so I never even watched that show, but I just remember him saying smashing a lot.
That's Tim Curry's voice, too.
Yeah. Okay, so and it's this so obviously it's a triangle.
Yeah.
But she tries to make things straight by saying, no pun intended, she tries to straighten things out by telling Nigel that Charlie is gay and just her friend, and there's nothing going on. And of course, and it's this really, Shia is really good in this movie, because people were just complaining about, what's the movie? Fury, David Ayer's World War II movie he's going to be in. And people are saying with that and Lawless, people are tired of seeing Shia play tough because they don't think he can play tough. Well, Charlie Countryman is not a tough guy at all. Like, he's very open and he's very straightforward, and like he will confront you, but not in like a tough way, just like in a talkative guy that won't shut up way.
Yeah.
And then there's this moment, and whatever Nigel is supposed to be, you can gather from Shia's performance. I can just imagine how it's described in the script. So she goes to this opera. She plays the cello, and she's in this orchestra. And after they've had this performance, Nigel comes backstage and starts to confront her and saying, like, where have you been? And I haven't, all that. He's basically coming back into her life. And he sees Charlie, and he just kind of walks up to Charlie. He doesn't, like, threaten his life or anything. He just walks up to Charlie and just talks to him. But it's like Charlie can sense what kind of person Nigel is, and he just, like, cowers into nothing. Like, he just sits there with this really, really... He had the face of a child that had just been yelled at, but all Nigel did was just talk to him. Because he's just that menacing on the cover. So, and yes, it turns out that he is a dangerous criminal, and we get their whole backstory about how, she basically is his property, if you will.
Yeah.
So Charlie goes to stay, and they have this serendipity love story, like they meet by chance and then they meet up again, and then they're like, he's trying to like get her to go out on a date, and then she says like, if you find me tomorrow, I'll kiss you, and then she just disappears. But then sure enough, they manage to find their way back into each other's lives, and it's one of that's pretty much what half the movie is. It's just this love story. And it's got like the whole other, you have the crime portion, you have the comedy portion. This movie is actually primarily a comedy, which was really weird to me because it just looked like one of these really gritty, unpleasant, violent movies. Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
But it was like watching Hesher for the first time. It's just this really bizarre, hilarious comedy from a movie you don't even know is a comedy. Like, Shia has this great run-in with the guy that like runs the orchestra, and he says, "Go wait by the door," and then Shia like just kind of comes back out, and the guy starts to charge after him and says, "I said wait by the fucking door," and then so Shia basically just runs by the door and just stands there stoically. Nice. It's just this whole. It's almost like this weird, wacky comedy amidst this violent underworld. It's very interesting. A lot of people at Sundance said it was one of those movies that tried too hard to be cool, but I didn't think it felt that way. I didn't think it tried to be anything that it didn't succeed at. I thought it was really well done. There are a few side characters. Speaking of nothing parts, Charlie's ex is played by Aubrey Plaza. She is in this. She's got her own credit. Like, when the names are going by on the screen, Aubrey Plaza is by itself. It's not grouped. It doesn't have a with her name with it. She's just there in the credits. I think her name is on the poster, too. She's in this movie for 20 seconds.
Aww.
He goes to her apartment to tell her that his mom died, and she hugs him. That's the whole scene that she's in.
Was her screen time cut, maybe?
Possibly. That would have to be. I don't know. And then we're introduced to his roommates. I've seen the other guys from the In-Betweeners, I think. And his other roommate is Rupert Grint. Ron Weasley, obviously.
Yes.
And there is this plot. It's not really a subplot because it ties into the rest of the movie, but he and his two roommates go to this strip club that's owned by Til Schweiger. Yes, Hugo Stiglitz himself.
That's awesome.
His name is Dargo. They even make fun of him for that. So they go into this club, and it's like a strip club. And the problem is, the reason they're there is because Rupert Grint accidentally took a shitload of Viagra. And he can't get it to go down, because he wants to be a porn star. So he's trying to make it grow, basically.
Oh, wow.
But it's like down to here on his pants. So they take him to this strip club so he can hopefully relieve himself. So he's getting a lap dance. It's just the cost of a lap dance. But during this lap dance, he blows his load. So they get the bill, and Til Schweiger is charging him as if he had slept with her because he blew his load. So wow. he's getting charged for the full thing because of that. So then they go up there, and we're introduced to him, and he does his threatening thing, and they say, like, you know, we'll get you your money, but we have to go and then come back, and then he does all that. But while they're in there, they see that he has a picture with Nigel. So he and Nigel are, like, tied together. And there's a picture of Evan Rachel Wood there, too. So all this is coming together now. And it goes into this subplot about, there's like an incriminating tape that her dad had that has Nigel and Darko killing people, like on camera, that he has hidden away. So that's basically what they want. And of course Nigel wants Evan Rachel Wood, so I can't remember what her character's name is off the top of my head, so I just have to keep saying her full last name. But yeah, I really like the character of Darko, which was, there's this, moment where there's a couple of things in the same scene. He has the two roommates outside, and they're like back to back, and they're like screaming, and their shirts are off. And he says, I have your two roommates as collateral, and he says, have you noticed that their hands and their bodies aren't tied? And he said, that's because I used super crazy glue. And we see that their backs are glued, super glued to each other, and they're like, it's almost like ripping the skin off. And there's this great moment. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it cracked me the fuck up. You have Darko standing, you have Charlie cowered in this little chair in front of a desk. And he just starts waving his finger in his face, and he's like, does that hurt? Does this hurt? And then he just grabs his face and slams it as hard as he can off the desk.
Good God.
And I think he punched him, then he slammed his face on the desk. So he's one of those villains.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, there's also a really good French Connection-esque scene where there's this big chase scene where they're all chasing Charlie, and they go down into the subway, and he outsmarts them in a really funny way. It might have been the scene like that where people thought it was too cool for its own good, but I thought the movie was just fine. So apparently what made news about it was Evan Rachel Wood is apparently pissed off because apparently this movie is violent. Like, there's headshots and there's beatings, and like I said, the glue scene is unpleasant, but apparently there was a scene where Charlie goes down on her, and the MPAA cut it. And I guess she's like raising Cain about, so we can't see a woman receiving pleasure, but we can see, fucking headshots. And so, that's just the way it is, I guess. Sorry, Evan Rachel Wood. I would have liked to have seen somebody go down on you too. Alright, so, yeah, I don't think it's one, believe me, if it was one of those movies that thinks it's cool when it isn't, I would say so.
Yes. I
would call it out, but I think it succeeds with everything it wanted to do. So, and like I said, Shia is really good in it, so I'd track that down if you can. The next movie is whatever you want to call it. I think it's widely known now as Winnie Mandela, but through its whole pre-production and still on IMDb, it's just referred to as Winnie. Okay, this is, we have like a billion Nelson Mandela movies, and we have a couple more coming, but we didn't have a Winnie Mandela movie, and apparently this was a story that really, really needed told. So,
oh boy.
Let's do it. You have Oscar baiting galore by casting Jennifer Hudson. And you have Terrence Howard as Nelson Mandela. And you have Alaska Tejas as this detective that keeps coming in and out of her life. Apparently Alaska Tejas got like some Canadian Acting Award nomination or something for this.
How'd Take This Waltz do in those categories last year?
Hopefully well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this movie pretty much had a reputation for being a fucking joke once they first announced it, because this was announced right as Invictus was coming out. That shows you how troubled this production was.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
And now it's coming out with the Idris Elba movie, so I don't know what that tells you. But okay. So it took... Invictus was 4 years ago. This month. So... Oh, God. Alright. First off... You know what? I don't even know where to start. So we'll just go from the beginning. Okay, so you think this movie's just going to be another joke biopic that we don't need. Maybe they'll do like what Scorsese did with The Aviator. Maybe it'll just be a portion of this person's life. Because that's all that's necessary.
Yeah.
If you want to tell just a specific story. No need to... Well, guess what? Okay, let me tell you this. Okay. We're going to kind of do... I'm gonna tell you what happens, and then we're gonna go back to the beginning for a second, because I just want to show you the transition we go through. Okay. A bus pulls up, and Winnie gets out, and it's Jennifer Hudson, of course. And she meets up with these people, and I guess it's her little friend circle, and they go do their thing. They're just walking around, and they're like seeing, the troubles of the land and all that shit. And then we see, I keep wanting to say Idris Elba, Terrence Howard, giving a speech, and it's like, oh, this is when she meets Nelson Mandela, and oh, watching him, this must be where they fall in love and all that. And of course, Nelson Mandela hits on her and, wants to take her out, and like, she's on the bus after she's rejected him, but he's in his car next to the bus, and they're playing romantic comedy and all that. This is not, what I just told you is not the beginning of the movie. Sounds, her getting off the bus, should that have been the first shot?
Yes.
Probably. But no, there's 10 minutes prior to this. This movie begins, I shit you not. You want to talk by the numbers biopic, doing as much as you can when you only need to tell just a little bit of a story? I shit you the fuck not. This movie's first scene is Winnie Mandela's mother giving birth to her.
I was thinking that was what you were going to say, but I was like, no, there's no way.
Yeah. Okay, listen to this. I don't know what the purpose of this was, but... We have, her dad is like a teacher in this really rundown school. They're under a fucking canopy. That's the kind of school that it is.
Okay.
And he's got that's all he's got is a chalkboard. And these people, okay, listen to this. Okay, so, so Winnie Mandela is born, literally, okay, and then we jump right ahead to her being in school. And they want to do this little plot where okay, let me just say this. I'm not necessarily accusing this movie of being racist, but I will just say pretty much every single white person in this movie is a mustache-twirling villain. So, he's trying to run this school that Winnie is in, and these people come up to inspect. They're basically going to shut his school down because he can't, because it's nothing. Because it's just a chalkboard and kids. And he doesn't really have anything else. So they're like, oh, we're going to have to shut you down because you are, poor and we are white and rich. So Winnie stands up and says like this whole poem excerpt. And that convinced them that this school was worthy. So they're like, home, and then they get back in their cars and leave. Jump ahead to Winnie being an adult.
Oh, boy.
What the fuck with this narrative?
I bet there's nothing, supposedly there's nothing that important that happens between now and then.
Oh, God. Okay. We saw her born, why didn't we get to see her puberty? That's clearly as important.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway... Okay. I'm sorry, this movie is irritating. This movie is embarrassing for everyone involved.
Poor Terrence Howard.
Okay, so then you have all this melodrama. I will decide on the wedding cake. obviously they pretty much rush into her marrying Nelson Mandela, of course. The main portion of the movie is what she did, her time in prison while he was in prison. That's what the main story, that's what the main focus is of the movie. But we gotta get all the way there to go through all this bullshit. We see them get married. And then, obviously, you know, the tradition is you take the wedding cake and you save it, you know. Well, their house gets raided on their wedding night. And here's what the evil villain does. They raid the house, they tear everything apart, but that is not the worst part. The worst fucking part, what this asshole did, this horrible, horrible human being, he finds the little tin that has the wedding cake in it, the saved wedding cake, the one slice of wedding cake, and he opens it. They build this up for a long time. He just sits here and stares at it forever. and then, the shit hits the fan. He breaks off a corner and eats it.
A corner?
Yes.
Oh, dear God, I was hoping it'd be the whole thing. It's a corner, for God's sakes.
It's like Aaron Eckhart with the cupcake in Nurse Betty. Where just to be a dick, he takes her birthday cupcake that she got from work and takes a big-ass bite out of it and just leaves the rest on the table. It's like, maybe he had done something like that, it would have been a little more evil, but... Nope, not this guy.
Here's a crumb.
Oh no, he threw the rest on the floor.
Of course.
I think. That's what I would have done if I was trying to do something evil here. I think he said, like, I expected him to say something like, tastes like shit, but I think he said something like, not bad, or something. This whole scene was just underlying. He thinks the cake isn't bad, he doesn't eat the whole thing. What the fuck's this thing for? He should have eaten the whole thing and said it tasted like shit and spit at them. And then burn their house down. The house does burn down, but not till towards the end.
Cake or death.
Oh my god. Oh, yes. I was talking about being straight to video, and I was talking about the credits. Did I talk about the credits yet?
No.
They're basically made on Windows Movie Maker. But here's the best part. It says Jennifer Hudson, Terrence Howard. At least it didn't say Academy Award winner, Academy Award nominee. The poster does what the movie didn't. And then it says Winnie Mandela. But, get this. The font doesn't look straight to video or made for TV enough. Right above Winnie Mandela, when it says the title, is the producer's name presents.
That's pretentious.
You know, they were charging by the letter. You see, they couldn't do a full this person presents credit by itself. They had to do it, lump it in with the title.
And they had to pay some poor, like, broke college student to make this in Windows Movie Maker because they couldn't do it themselves.
The copyright at the bottom.
Made by Brent.
Okay, so another thing is, we've barely jumped through time. Like, okay, so we have her being born, and then suddenly she's like 6 and in school, and then suddenly she's Jennifer Hudson. Later on, suddenly they have children.
Because it just happens in this movie, apparently.
They just came from out of the ground like gophers and just started moving around the house, and they just kept them. Okay, so anyway, but the thing that bothered me most about this movie is exactly what I was talking about. Which was, it basically feels like... Obviously this wasn't going to be an awards movie, but they really wanted to try. Pretty much every other scene of this movie is a speech. Like, whether it's her or whether it's Terrence Howard, there is a speech prepared for almost every other scene. Even when they're in fucking prison. There's this whole subplot where she befriends an ant in prison, by the way. Don't ask me about that, please.
An actual ant?
Yes. Like the rat in Old Boy.
Okay, right on.
So, and there's just speeches everywhere. And I shit you not, you know, I don't even have to say that because you probably know it's true anyway. Every single scene felt like it was built as an Oscar clip. Because it's these big emotional speeches, or it's these big, you know, crying or breaking down, or... And of course, because it's Jennifer Hudson, she sings. In prison. To, like, drive the Garth insane.
Winnie Mandela ever sing?
I don't fucking know. Bright side, Terrence Howard's good in this.
Terrence Howard's good in everything.
I was wondering, but yeah, he's good in this. Elias Koteas is fine too, even though he's doing the... Elias Koteas was the one that ate the cake. Just plant that sentence anywhere in any conversation ever. Elias Koteas is the one that ate the cake.
That almost would be the title of this video if it wasn't everything else.
It's gotta be a meme.
Yes.
Let's make that happen.
Alright.
I think that's all I have to say. They just tried to make it like this big, triumphant, heroic movie, and it's... Oh my god, this is horrible.
Lifetime.
This is pretty much... Or Hallmark, one of the two. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I know it's like backtracking because it's what we do here, but bringing up Elias Koteas, obviously we're talking about Casey Jones. Did you know that Casey Jones is not going to be in Michael Bay's Turtles movie now? They just made that announcement recently.
I would have done that, and I would have cast James McAvoy.
They're gonna make William Fichtner a little bit bigger part instead to make up for it.
All right, our last movie.
McAvoy's a good idea though.
Our last movie is a martial arts movie directed by Keanu Reeves, starring Keanu Reeves, called Man of Tai Chi.
Whoa.
Okay. I'm going to review this movie in two different ways, kind of like I did Frozen.
But differently, completely.
I'm going to talk about Man of Tai Chi right now as somebody, as an object of criticism.
Okay.
Keanu Reeves knows how to handle... Keanu Reeves seems like he knows how to handle the material.
Okay.
Like, everything is shot fine and it looks fine. Like, you know, I'm sure he'll, like... If he continues to direct, I'm sure he can make something of it. Obviously, he's got a good grasp on the business, and he did the documentary Side by Side.
47 Ronin's coming out soon too.
Yeah, he didn't direct it though. He's just in it.
No, but he's in it, so he knows how to do the subject matter.
Well, yeah, The Matrix.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, he's just into this stuff.
Seems to be. It's
not particularly well made in some aspects. Like, the acting is not good. Keanu plays the villain, and his performance is bad. I mean, I know Keanu has a reputation for not having good performances. I think he's underrated, for sure, but he's undeniably bad here. And there's these moments where, like, there's this one particular moment where, like, I don't even remember the context of it. It came from out of nowhere. He like screams into the camera like an evil lizard or something. And he sees the Man of Tai Chi on the screen, and he's singling him out to be in his underground fight club. But he sees the look on his face, so he just points to him and just goes, "Innocent." What the fuck are you doing, Keanu?
Constantine.
There's a car wreck in this movie. That's like, all the fighting looks so authentic, but then when you see this car wreck, it's like this really bad CG car flying through the woods, and it's like, this is fucking dumb. You have this character that's like annoying comic relief. His name's like Gong or something. He follows the Man of Tai Chi around with a camera. And
he's Rob Schneider.
This might be kind of a twist, but I'll go ahead and say it. They're basically doing a Truman Show type thing with him.
Okay.
And it's, I mean, Keanu makes a decent villain. I mean, like, he was also a villain in that movie, The Watcher, with James Spader, that was about a strangler. It had a fucking Rob Zombie soundtrack. That movie sucked, but he's an alright villain. Alright, that's me. That's my critical review of this movie. As somebody, just watching a martial arts movie, and a fan of action movies, and a fan of Keanu's work in action movies, I'm now going to review this movie as that person. Because I will find the criticisms in movies, but I can also just watch a movie, just to watch it. This movie's fucking awesome.
He goes all barking out there.
Just let me hear. Okay. What the plot is is we start on this guy, and he's in this fight club that Keanu runs. We don't know it's Keanu yet because he just wears a black mask. A black mask, like one of those. And the guy fights, and he wins. And he kills the guy. Or no, he doesn't kill the guy. He doesn't want to kill the guy. So we see Keanu walk in, who we still don't know it's him yet. He just walks up, and he snaps the guy's fucking neck. And the other guy leaves. Because the other guy was supposed to finish him, that was his job, and he didn't do it. So Keanu goes in, takes off his mask, and fucking stabs this guy to death. So he's looking for somebody else for his underground fight club, and that's when he sees the man in Tartary, which he goes by later, on the TV, and that's when he decides to. He kind of reminds me of Michael C. Hall in Gamer, because he's watching all of this like on monitors and just being evil.
Nice.
That's the thing, though. Okay, I got on Keanu's case for being bad in this movie, but here's the thing. It's like he knew he was going to be bad in this. He seems really miscast. He speaks in like broken English. Like he's not supposed to be American. But he's playing the part anyway. But he's just like... I'm going to assume it was a self-aware performance because he's bad, but he's so awesomely, gloriously bad. Like, he's just as bad as he can possibly be. It had to have been on purpose. And I will buy that.
Okay, fair enough.
And the fight scenes in this movie are fucking insane. There's this great, awesome moment where he's first getting to the place. And this is where he's going to be trained. But he's in a nice suit, because he's not quite sure what he's supposed to be doing here. So he walks in, and there's this completely empty room with a white line on the floor and a mirror. And a voice comes on that just says, "Please step up to the white line." So he walks up to the line, and he's looking in the mirror, and he says, like, "Please turn to the right." So he turns to the right, and, "Please turn to the left. Please face the mirror and say your name." He's like, he says his name. Fight. And a dude comes from out of fucking nowhere and just starts to beat his ass.
That's awesome.
But it's this awesome fight where he's like this, he has like unparalleled martial arts skills, that's why he's been chosen. So he manages to turn the fight around immediately. Like for a while they fight using the tie that's around his neck.
Wow.
And then he eventually just beats this guy's ass. And this happens a few times. And then there's this moment where there's this awesome fight scene where they're on like, it kind of looks like the karaoke stage in Only God Forgives.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks like this normal stage. But it's going to be a 2-on-1 thing. He's got to fight two guys on the stage at the same time. And all the fucking lights go out, and the stage lights up. And it's like this awesome design, and then they beat his fucking ass. Like, this is the first time in the movie where we actually see him get his ass kicked. But then Keanu walks up. I actually broke down the line. What was it he said? Yes. Keanu just kind of looks at him. Obviously, you don't expect this guy to get his ass kicked because he's supposed to have unparalleled martial arts skills. And Keanu knows this, so Keanu just says, I just looked at it. What did he say? You're afraid of what you can do to them, and that's why he's not fighting them. So this is motivation. So he comes to and beats both their fucking asses. But then, of course, things start to get out of control when he realizes what this fight club is, and he's gonna have to kill people. Because he just does it to do it. He doesn't want to be watched, and he doesn't want to, do it for sport, and he doesn't want to, definitely doesn't want to kill people, and doesn't want it to be this big thing.
Yeah.
But of course, Keanu's setting it up to where it's this big underground televised thing. So that's where friction happens.
Battle of the tough guys.
So we're getting close to the end. And there's this big, fight sequence where all this goes down on a stage. And then it's such a tease because Keanu comes out and he's got the black mask. And we're like, oh my god, Keanu's gonna kick ass! And they're getting ready to fight. Keanu rips the mask off and it's like, yeah, this shit's about to go down. And then the cops come. And Keanu says, you owe me a life, and then he runs away. And it's, fuck that! So then the ending happens, and everything's good, and the Manitachi is at this place, this little secluded place, and there's this big open, area. He's walking around, and there's fucking Keanu, and we finally get that this fight is fucking insane! We finally get to see Keanu's character has been in like this, you know, this little hidden away room with monitors and shit in it for a while now, and he's, you know, in really nice suits. He's always in like a fucking black on black suit. But finally he shows up, he's just in a fucking jacket and like fucking jeans, and this is a fucking throwdown to the death. So, I would watch this. I mean, yeah, it's got parts, you know, that are just kind of like, But, I mean, if you're just going to watch it just to watch it, you should watch it.
You should watch it now, apparently.
Because this movie rocks. And I really hope Keanu takes on a director's part more. Because he's one of those directors where I could see him... I could also see him making something like really small and tender and indie, too. But while also doing stuff like this. So I'm very curious to see where his directorial career takes him. Because I've always thought he was underrated, so... I think people make a little too big of a deal about his acting skills, I guess. Because he's... No. Like I said, the only time I've ever really acknowledged his not great acting was here. But that has to have been on purpose. Because it's just so... over the top bad. But, you know, it's awesome nonetheless. So, yeah.
So, recommendations for this week?
Charlie Countryman and Man of Tai-Chi, but not Winnie Mandela.
Any parting words?
There is one thing that I would recommend if you're going to watch Winnie Mandela. That you commit suicide first. It might make it a little easier. So, that's that.